Up to this point in our series, we've talked about strategy, about relationships, and about the business of getting onto Netflix. This episode is different. This episode is about cold, hard, unforgiving technical reality of what Netflix actually requires from your film before they will accept a single frame of it onto their platform. And this is the episode where a lot of independent filmmakers quietly realize they are not as ready as they thought they were. Netflix has the most demanding technical delivery specifications in the entire streaming industry. Not the most demanding of the major platforms, the most demanding of all of them, period. They've built a global content delivery infrastructure that serves 325 million subscribers across 190 countries simultaneously in dozens of languages on thousands of different devices. The technical standards they require exist because that infrastructure demands them. There is no negotiating around them. There is no asking for an exception. Either your film meets the specifications or it does not get on it. I'm Sal Fermandi. This is Post Hollywood, episode 5 of Get on Netflix, and today I'm going to walk you through every single technical requirement Netflix demands, and what each one means in plain English, what it costs, and what happens if you do not have it. By the end of this episode, you will understand why delivery alone can cost more than most independent films cost to make, and exactly what you need to plan for before you shoot a single frame of your next project. Let us start at the beginning, the camera. For any new content being delivered to Netflix in 2026, the minimum acceptable resolution is 4K ultra high definition. That means your film must be captured, edited, and delivered at a resolution of 3840 by 2160 pixels. Full HD, the 1080p standard that was considered professional quality just a few years ago, is no longer sufficient for Netflix originals and new acquisitions. And this requirement begins at the camera, not in post, not at the delivery stage, at the camera. Netflix maintains a list of approved cameras for production. Cameras that have been tested and verified to capture footage at the quality levels their pipeline requires. Cameras like the ARRI Alexa, the Red Series, Sony Venice, the Blackmagic URSA, are among the approved options. If your film was shot on a camera that is not on this list, that is a conversation you need to have with your aggregator before you go any further, because it affects what can be done in post-production to bring the footage up to their standards. For filmmakers who have already shot their film and are now learning this for the first time, the situation is not always hopeless. There are upscaling options, but those options cost money, take time, and do not always produce the results that pass Netflix's quality control. The far smarter approach: understand the resolution requirements before you shoot a single frame. Frame rate. Netflix requires your film to be delivered at its native frame rate, the frame rate at which it was originally captured and edited. For most cinematic productions, that means 23.976 frames per second, 24 frames per second, or 25 frames per second. These are the standard cinematic frames used around the world. What Netflix explicitly will not accept is something called 3:2 pull down. Pull down is a process used to convert film frame rates to broadcast television frame rates, specifically the 29.97 interlaced standard used in North American TV. Many older films and some newer productions finished for broadcast have gone through this process. Netflix will not accept it. It has to be removed before delivery, a process called reverse pull down or inverse telesign. Technical, expensive. Sometimes you want to avoid by simply shooting and finishing it at the right frame rate from the start. Netflix also requires that your video be delivered in the original aspect ratio. If your film was shot in 2.39 by 1 widescreen, it must be delivered in 2.39 by 1. No reformatting, no cropping. The integrity of the original image preserved throughout. Now, codec. A codec is the technical format in which your video data is encoded and stored. Netflix accepts specific codecs and will reject anything outside their approved list. The primary accepted formats are Apple ProRes 422HQ, Apple ProRes 4444, and XAVC. ProRes 422 HQ is the workhorse of professional post-production. It preserves significantly more image data than compressed formats and gives Netflix's encoding team the raw material that they need. ProRes 4 is a step above that. It preserves alpha channel data, the full image information including transparency used in visual effects work. For films with significant VFX, this is often the preferred format. XAVC is Sony's professional codec standard. If your film was shot on Sony equipment, XAVC is likely your natural delivery path. What Netflix will not accept are consumer-grade compressed formats. H.264, H.265, even high bit rates. These formats discard image data during compression in ways that affect the quality of the final stream. Netflix encodes their own optimized versions of every piece of content from the highest quality source material possible. Your job is to give them that source material in its most complete and uncompressed form. This is the technical requirements that surprise most independent filmmakers the most, because it's the least discussed in general filmmaking education and the most significant in terms of what it requires from your post-production pipeline. IMF, Interoperable Master Format. This is the delivery standard that Netflix requires for all content going through their Backlot delivery portal. And understanding what IMF is and why Netflix requires it is essential to understanding why Netflix delivery is so technically complex and so expensive. Here is the simplest way I can explain it. A traditional film delivery package puts everything together in one place. The video, the audio, the subtitles, one file or one set of files that represents the complete film. IMF works completely different. IMF separates the video, the audio, subtitles, and the metadata into discrete, individually version components. Each element exists independently and they are assembled into the complete film through a structured set of instructions called a composition playlist. Why does Netflix require this? Because with IMF, Netflix can create territory-specific versions of your film without encoding the base video from scratch every single time. They attach a Spanish subtrack for Latin America, a French dub for France, a German dub for Germany, audio descriptions for visually impaired viewers in the UK, all using the same underlying video component, just combining it with different audio and subtitle components for each territory. For Netflix, that saves enormous amounts of storage and processing resources across their global infrastructure. For you as a filmmaker, it means your post-production pipeline has to be built from the beginning to produce IMF packaging at the end. Creating an IMF package requires specialized software, tools like DaVinci Resolve Studio, Colorfront, or dedicated IMF encoding applications. It requires a post-production facility or aggregator that understands IMF packaging, and it requires time, expertise, and money that most independent filmmakers have not budgeted for. Most indie filmmakers working with approved aggregators do not create the IMF packages themselves. They deliver the highest quality ProRes master that they can produce, and the aggregator handles the IMF packaging as part of their service. But understanding what IMF is and why it exists helps you understand why the technical delivery process is as complex and expensive as it is. Let me talk about how the delivery actually gets to Netflix. Netflix does not accept deliveries by email. They do not accept hard drives shipped to an address. They do not accept files uploaded to Dropbox or Google Drive or WeTransfer. There is exactly one way to deliver content to Netflix, and that is through their proprietary delivery portal called Backlot. Backlot is Netflix's content management and delivery system. It is the platform which all approved delivery partners upload your film's complete delivery package, submit the associated metadata, manage the quality control process, and track the status of your submission from initial uploads through the final approval platform launch. And here's the critical detail. You as an individual filmmaker do not have direct access to Backlot. Access is granted only to Netflix-approved delivery partners. This is another reason, on top of all the technical reasons, why working with an approved aggregator is not optional. They are not just technically capable of creating the right files, they are literally the only people who can get those files into Netflix's system. Once your aggregator uploads your package to Backlot, Netflix internal quality control teams, they review it, every frame, every audio channel, every subtitle file, every piece of metadata. If anything does not meet their specifications, and remember, Netflix rejects between 20 and 30% of first submissions. They issue a rejection report listing every specific issue that needs to be corrected. Your aggregator then has to fix those issues and resubmit. This process can take weeks, it can take months.